When we think of knockout artists, it's usually the heavyweights that come to mind. At 5'5", fighting at bantamweight, Naoya Inoue doesn't look like a destroyer at first glance. His boxing isn't flashy, it isn't complicated. And yet almost nobody survives him. With an 85% knockout ratio, almost unheard of in the lighter weight classes, he is pound for pound one of the most dangerous punchers in boxing. This is the story of how discipline, structure and control turn something simple into something lethal. They say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, and in boxing that often means a father passing his obsession onto his son. The Inoue story begins with Shingo Inoue. Not a household name, not a great champion in his own right, but a man who has become revered for producing one of the greatest fighters Japan has ever seen. Once might be luck, twice might be coincidence. But when two brothers become world champions, it's usually a system, not a miracle. Shingo instilled discipline into his boys early. Trust the process, master the basics, repeat them endlessly. When you start something young, the learning goes deeper, the nervous system adapts quickly, movements become instinctive rather than conscious. Boxing, after all, is a perishable skill. Conditioning fades, timing dulls. But once the fundamentals are truly learned, they never disappear. You never forget how to make a fist and turn over a punch. You might need sharpening, but the understanding is always there. That's the difference between learning something and owning it. We've talked before about Floyd Mayweather and the price he paid for greatness. His upbringing was chaotic, harsh, and shaped by survival. The Inoue story is almost the inverse. Stability, structure, normality, no poverty, no crime, just repetition, routine, and a father obsessed with doing things the right way. The common thread isn't suffering, it's lineage. A father passing down not just techniques, but values. Pride in his craft, respect for details, and understanding that mastery is built quietly over time. This is where culture begins to express itself through boxing. Mayweather became the greatest practitioner of the Philly shell because it was passed down to him, because he admired the fighters who came before him, and because it belonged to his boxing culture. That idea was even bluntly referenced in Rocky III when Apollo Creed takes Rocky into his gym and poorly dismisses the style as something that isn't for him.
This is where I started. That's your problem.
The language hasn't aged well, but the underlying truth remains. Fighters gravitate towards styles that reflect their environment, their heroes, and their identity. Naoya Inoue is no different. His style reflects Japanese values almost perfectly. Discipline, efficiency, respect for fundamentals, and relentless attention to detail. Nothing is wasted, nothing is rushed. Power isn't chased, it's earned through mechanics. Violence emerges not from the chaos, but from order. Control before violence. Naoya Inoue is best known for his knockout power, but his fights are won long before the finishing shots land. He breaks opponents down methodically. Stance, footwork, positioning, and an educated lead hand, the fundamentals taught from day one, are where his control begins. These are the basics his father insisted he master, and mastery, not improvisation, sits at the heart of Inoue's style. That emphasis on repetition and form mirrors broader Japanese training philosophies. Progress comes through technical precision, consistency, and refinement rather than the shortcuts. Think of the katas in karate. Over time, efficiency replaces excess, and nothing is wasted. You can see this most clearly in Naoya's lead hand.
Nary's explosive. Just
And the up jab.
The jab in his hands isn't a single tool, it's an entire system. Sometimes it's light, used to test range or provoke a reaction.
Fight and hopefully win.
Other times it's firm and disruptive, thrown directly into an opponent's jab to break rhythm and deny initiative. He uses it to read defensive habits, to gauge intent, and when he commits to it fully, to hurt and drive opponents backwards.
From the legs up.
Manny Pacquiao.
What separates Naoya isn't just variety, but timing, and that timing comes from always being in a stance he can punch from. He rarely breaks his base. Because he's consistently balanced and ready, he can hold his ground when needed. He often jabs with his opponent rather than after them.
I got to be smart enough and I got to be strong enough.
And if he has to give up ground, he does so without losing structure. Despite being a front foot fighter, he's very effective at punching while moving backward.
Inoue commits, he's out of position. Oh, there it is.
This constant fishing with the lead hand, touching and probing, is part of his broader strategy to steadily break opponents down. He changes commitment, rhythm, and the look just enough to keep opponents guessing, conditioning them to patterns before breaking them.
Fighter.
It was clear.
Back to the body with it.
Stepping all the way in carries risk, so he teaches opponents to expect one tempo, then punishes them for reacting to it. The look changes are part of this baiting process. At times he'll posture behind the high guard to draw out an opponent's lead, setting up a counter, or to momentarily pause them.
That's what he has to do if he's going to get into this fight, but the problem is he's soaked up a lot of punishment.
The high guard look can cause hesitation, and Inoue is excellent at catching opponents watching, snapping into a quick change of tempo and firing the lead from that position. Here we see Inoue fishing for the left hook counter. He begins with the jab, not to score, but to draw Donaire's right hand. Immediately after the jab he exits, stepping back with both feet while throwing the left hook as he moves. The punch doesn't land cleanly, but the intention is clear. He's testing the reaction and collecting information. After that first attempt, Inoue changes the look. He postures behind an exaggerated high guard and drops his stance slightly. Donaire takes the bait and throws a probing jab. Inoue responds, and Donaire anticipates the return, dipping to avoid while preparing his own right hand counter. That's where the trap is sprung. As Donaire comes back up to throw, Inoue is already there. The left hook lands cleanly, catching Donaire mid-transition. This exchange isn't just about power or speed, it's about timing and understanding when an opponent is committed to their next action. His timing with the lead hand is exceptional, but it's his posture and composure that buy him time. Small changes in stance and presentation allow him to read movements, anticipate responses and plan the counters in real time. This ability to manipulate opponents visually and rhythmically isn't accidental. It's the product of hundreds of rounds of sparring and a deep amateur background that sharpened his understanding of live reactions. Before the violence comes control, and by the time opponents realise they're being led, the trap is already set.
That's a lot to process in just 1 millisecond.
I'm letting you know.
Supreme focus from Naoya Inoue. As Moloney
Doesn't give me a better round. The next round, I'll probably end up stopping this match. I mean, he's taking a beating, and I want to save him for the rest of his career. And Tim, I love what you said again in that last round. You know, some may...
nice
Right
counter
hand.
right from Inoue after Moloney lands a shot of his own.
You could hear the thoughts that... Oh! Good shot right there.
Down goes Moloney on a quick counter.
Combination punching.
He tried to come forward, but he's not letting his hands go. He's afraid for what's going to come back, so his rhythm up. I mean, when you have a fighter like Inoue...
These are hard shots by Naoya.
Stylistically, Inoue also reflects broader trends in Japanese combat sports.
And a big right hand that comes in. Great work from Inoue.
Historically, Japanese fighters have been exceptional combination punchers.
Going down.
He is hurt.
Yeah, they're gonna call it.
It's be a great combination puncher, you need balance, timing, hand speed, and accuracy. Inoue has all of it.
It just goes down, Dre, because Inoue is going to work.
And when an opponent is hurt in front of him, few fighters in the sport are more dangerous.
There it is.
But then a shot like that will land.
Left hook to the body.
Three-punch combination. Goes back to it again. Work from the monster. Uppercut. Body shot again.
Okay. If you watch a lot of Naoya Inoue's pad work, it's essentially target practice, and he drills a sequence over and over. When structure meets repetition, something else appears. Power.
Combinations. Pablo's in that corner and desperately needs to get out. He has that left hand up.
Tensegrity is defined by a structure held together not by force but by balance, tension when it's needed, relaxation everywhere else. Inoue has become best known for his devastating punching power. It's the thing that pulls people in. When fans tuned in to watch Floyd Mayweather, they expected defensive mastery. With Manny Pacquiao, it was blistering hand speed and volume.
Daylight's out of him now.
Yeah, this fight should be stopped. And if the corner was smart, they would stop the fight.
Oh, Margarito
Staggered
throwing a huge right
Yeah, and now he's in trouble.
With Inoue, it's the threat of a fight ending with a single, clean shot.
Right hand hurts him. Oh, a huge right hand from the monster.
But that power isn't the starting point, it's the result. As we've discussed, discipline was instilled early, and efficiency sits at the heart of both his training and his style. Inoue is content to perfect the basics. He finds value in repetition, in the unglamorous work that makes everything else possible. Sitting down on his shots, staying connected to the floor, punching with the whole body. Power starts at the feet. Driving force from the floor through the legs and hips, transferred cleanly through the torso and shoulders and released through the fist at the moment of impact. His hips rotate first, creating stretch through the core before the torso and arm are pulled into motion. That stored tension is released in sequence. Feet, hips, trunk, shoulder, and finally the fist, so acceleration builds as the punch travels. Because the arm lags slightly behind the rotating body, the strike arrives with the full mass of his frame behind it, not just the speed of his hand. Nothing leaks, nothing collapses. With Inoue, power is a byproduct of perfect balance. You can see this clearly against Jason Moloney.
Round 7.
Oh!
A big right hand from Naoya Inoue, and Moloney is down in her.
The right hand that drops him barely travels. There's no big wind-up, no dramatic loading of the arm. Inoue initiates with a small hip rotation, the torso follows, and the arm is released at the end of the chain. It's short, compact and sudden, not because it's fast alone, but because everything arrives at once. It looks simple in itself, but the structure behind it is doing the work. Naoya has carried that power through multiple weight classes, unifying belts as he's moved up and knocked opponents out along the way. But power of this kind doesn't come without risk. Warrior spirit.
Donaire right now doesn't seem spooked by the punching power. Oh! There it is!
Inoue goes down. Luis Neri with a first-round knockdown of the monster.
Being a knockout artist can be a double-edged sword. The moment a fighter is most vulnerable is when they open themselves up to lead an attack.
Trying to turn over that sweeping left hook. There's Inoue with him against the Oh, the monster's down! The monster's down! Cardenas catches him!
Japanese boxing has long been associated with bravery, toughness, and a willingness to endure. Fighters are expected not just to win, but to demonstrate character through their performance. Stoicism, the ability to endure pain or hardship without complaint, is deeply ingrained in Japanese culture, and boxing has become one of the arenas where their quality is expressed most visibly. For many Japanese fighters, resilience isn't a weakness or a last resort. It's a virtue. The ability to suffer, to recover, and to continue carries real cultural weight. Naoya Inoue wasn't dropped because he lacks defensive fundamentals or awareness. He was dropped because of the risks he's willing to take. He fights to finish, not to coast. That's not a technical flaw, it's a reflection of temperament and philosophy. He doesn't aim to scrape decisions or manage danger conservatively. He wants to impose himself, to dominate, and to express the full range of his skills. That mindset naturally brings moments of vulnerability, but it also creates the kind of fights people remember. When Inoue takes an 8 count, it isn't a curse. It's an opportunity. An invitation to show resolve, to reassert control, to prove something about who he is.
In the second round. Body shot, right hand. He's in trouble again. Here in this 8th round, it's all Inoue, and it's all over. Inoue.
Of course, this isn't part of the plan. No fighter chooses to be dropped, but he is never discouraged. That sense of purpose runs deeper than the ring. He fights as a husband, a father, a son, and a brother. Family and responsibility are central to his identity, and those values shape how he competes.
He's out of position.
Oh,
there it
and
is.
Inoue returns the favor.
He fights not just for titles, but for lineage and representation. That connection is why he's become more than just a champion. It's why he can fill the Tokyo Dome. Why he resonates so strongly with the Japanese audiences.
And indeed, we welcome you, ladies and gentlemen, to the world-famous Tokyo Dome here in Tokyo, Japan.
Everything we've talked about so far, the discipline, the restraint, controlled risk, efficiency, only matter if he shows up in the boxing. And with Naoya Inoue, it does.
That.
Round 7.
Oh, a big right hand! Might have been better to just go down, Dre, because Inoue is going to work here.
And a big right hand that comes in. Great work from Inoue.
Finisher here, Tim.
There's the right hand! He just answered the question! As Neri has crumbled and the monster has roared! He's done it again!
Naoya Inoue doesn't win because he is chaotic or unpredictable. He wins because nothing in his boxing is wasted. What looks like violence is really organisation. What looks like instinct is really repetition. The power is just structure doing its job under pressure.
Time and again with his guard as well.
Sweep that right hand to the body.
Absolutely.
Final seconds of round 6. This is the way it's supposed to look.
He's the product of lineage, of discipline passed from father to son, and of a culture that values patience, refinement, responsibility in craft, and efficiency. It's real Japanese order. Inoue shows us that greatness doesn't have to be loud. It can be quiet and methodical, built not on tricks or shortcuts, but fundamentals repeated until they cannot fail. His knockouts aren't accident, they're conclusions. The monster isn't born from chaos, he's built from order. And in the end, that may be the most dangerous thing of all. As always, thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed this and would like to see more, head over to the Pro Striking Patreon, the link will be in the description. There's loads of the breakdowns and tutorials over there. Pro Striking appreciates you more than Naoya Inoue's punching efficiency.